Good evening and welcome to tonight's Undaunted, bringing you to the news on Church Stories. I am Oyin Yokbala. Let's begin. In a heart-wrenching turn of events, the once promising futures of graduates in Ambazonia have been reduced to a mere struggle for survival. The devastating consequences of bad colonial governance under dictator Paul Biya's regime have left these young individuals with no choice but to resort to menial jobs, such as commercial bike riding, and this is seen as a means of sustenance. Their statistics are staggering. Ambazonia, a nation rich in natural resources and human capital, has been plagued by a severe job crisis. The closure of key job-providing institutions, coupled with the colonial regime's lack of investment in the nation's human resources, has resulted in a staggering unemployment rate. Graduates who were once filled with hope and promise now find themselves struggling to make ends meet. The colonial regime's failure to provide job opportunities has forced these young individuals to abandon their dreams and aspirations, instead opting for low-paying menial jobs. The impact of this crisis goes beyond just statistics. The human cost of colonial rule is evident in the stories of these graduates who have been forced to put their dreams on hold. The emotional toll of watching one's future slip away is highly immeasurable. As Ambazonians struggle to break free from the shackles of colonial rule, it is clear that the fight for independence is not just about politics. It is about the future of a generation. The time for change, we believe, is now. The people of Ambazonia demand a better future, one where their graduates can thrive and reach their full potentials and compete with other graduates across the world. Well, all these and more we'll speak on tonight on Undaunted, with Bar.Tim Mbeseha in the house. But first, let's get the prime headlines. Well, tonight we'll start with the university students in Bambili losing life after falling from the hostel. We'll go into what we call institutional irony, where Colonial Northwest Regional Assembly has failed to develop its workforce. The motorcycle sector in Ambazonia is fast absorbing graduates, where bike riding has become a lone option to make ends meet. Locals take matters into their own hands and reopen the Dschang Cliff Road amidst colonial government's restriction. All the Africans seeing World Food Program to close office in Southern Africa after Trump aid cuts. Meanwhile, on the foreign scene, France and European Union are making moves to secure access to Ukraine's vast mineral resources. Now let's get the news in full briefings. Well, a university student in Bambili has lost a life after a fall. This report dates to the 3rd of March 2025, where a university student was found dead in Bambili. Well, it is suspected that he had fallen from the second floor of a student hostel where he lived. Colonial authorities have said to be looking into what happened. Well, the population in Bambili were shocked to find the body of a university student outside a hostel during the morning hours. Neighbors reported to have heard a loud sound during the night, which made them worry something was wrong. After discovering the body, residents called the Colonial Police. An investigation has started to find out what led to the fall. Meanwhile, early reports suggest that the student was with two male before the fall, when the Colonial police searched their room, they found marijuana and empty cans of alcoholic drinks, which of course is used by students as energy drinks. But for all we know, Ambazonian State Army has been against any form of drugs usage and alcohol in schools. We've seen them go through this over and over again. But then the two friends have been taken for questioning as part of the investigation. Colonial authorities claim to be trying to figure out if the fall was an accident or if there were other reasons behind it. Bambili is home to the University of Bamenda, one of Ambazonia's important state universities. Bar.Tim Mbeseha, welcome to tonight's Undaunted.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, this is a report about another student losing lives on a regular basis. That students are losing their lives on a regular basis. The other day we reported about a student that went to the stream or river or lake, and that was the end. Other times, if we're not reporting that, students go out probably for parties, and they get kidnapped, or we're reporting that students would just want to just take a fall and then lose his life from there. Are these regular in other, countries, or do you think that this is particular to Ambazonian schools? Do you think that these incidents are particular to Ambazonian schools?
No, I think the incident and several others are not peculiar to Ambazonian schools. They are generalized in Cameroon schools, and they are a generalized failure of the policy of education, which has been transcribed to Ambazonia. Because, for example, it's not enough to open a university. A lot goes into the story how a university is created, or any school. And from the story that we are told, which I think, if it's right, a student falls from a hostel. They don't discover his body until the next day. Therefore, I would guess that looked like a private hostel. Somebody built his house there, created rooms, and students were renting. And so it's a failure of the system. A system creating a school like a university would include security, would include things to verify. He talked about drugs. Drug use is common in Cameroon because they pay lip service to drug control. And so if people are doing drugs, it is wrong. You cannot then excuse yourself by the fact that somebody dies doing drugs. Where were you when the drug became a trade? Where were you when the drug use became a culture on university campuses? That's total failure. Drug is just one aspect of it. Sex is sold there as a trade. And then, of course, politics is done there as a business. And so the students are exposed to those things, deliberately or inadvertently. But all that saves the regime in place. Because a drug youth, a drunken young man or woman is useless. They cannot think. And that's why you still find them in Cameroon there, and in Ambazonia in particular. They go to Bamenda campus, or in the other university around there, Boya, and pay them money, 2,000, 1,000, to go and march. And they still have to accept the money because they have nowhere else to go. And so that's the culture, which is an explanation of the failure of the educational system. And so I think it's not peculiar to Ambazonia, but we believe also that in a rare Ambazonia, those things will not happen. The conditions will be laid. Before you create a university, what do they even call University of Bamenda? University of Bamenda, to the best of my knowledge, is nothing but a decree. That was cast Bambili. They transform a secondary school into university and then call it university, and then push their brothers and sisters there, give them projects to run, to teach nothing, and to issue certificates when the students graduate. And of course, upon graduation, they have nothing to do with the certificates. What do? They turn more to drugs. The best ones who can afford motorbikes become motorbike riders. The question we have to ask ourselves is it what it's all about? No. Ambazonia should never go that way. We hope to correct it and correct it as soon as possible. Over to you.
All right, still talking about Ambazonians. Let's talk about what happens. Life in the university is one. Surviving healthy is one. Having your life intact is another one. But what happens after you're done schooling? It happens that most of them do not have jobs and they end up becoming motorcyclists. And so the commercial motorcycle sector is fast absorbing Ambazonians. Graduates in Ambazonians have just bike riding as a lone option to meet ends meet. And this has closed all employment generating institutions in Ambazonia. So La Republic of Cameroon colonial regime has transformed Ambazonian diplomas and graduates into handlebars. Now, in a shocking turn of events, the one promising futures of graduates in Ambazonia have been reduced to a mere struggle for survival. The devastating consequences of bad governance and colonial governance of President Paul Biya's regime and the closure of key job-providing institutions in Ambazonia have left these young individuals with no choice but to resort to commercial bike riding as a means of sustenance. This heartbreaking reality serves as a reminder of the failed promises of the colonial and the dire need for Ambazonia to secure their independence. The closure of several major industries and institutions, once the backbone of the economy of Ambazonia, has resulted in a catastrophic job market. Graduates, armed with degrees and aspirations, are now faced with the harsh reality of unemployment. The colonial government's inaction and lack of foresight have exacerbated the situation, leaving these young individuals to fend for themselves. Some of these institutions include the WATHER, the PWD, Coffee Tea Estate, and even more. They are all closed down. And so as the job market continues to shrink, graduates have been forced to explore alternative means of income. Commercial bike riding, once considered a menial job, has become a lifeline for many, with no other option available. So these young graduates have taken to the streets, braving the dangers of road accidents and harassment from colonial police officers just to make ends meet. The emotional toll of these crises cannot be overstated, where graduates were filled with hope and ambition and now struggling to come to terms with their reduced circumstances. So the loss of dignity and self-worth is palpable as these young individuals are forced to abandon their dreams and aspirations. So the plight of these young Ambazonians is further compounded by the ongoing war declared by the President of La Republic of Cameroon, Paul Biya. So the situation remains and demands immediate attention and action from all Ambazonian youths to stand up and fight for the restoration of the statehood of the nation. The plight of graduates turned commercial bike riders is serving as a reminder of the failed promises of the La Republic of Cameroon's government. It is a crisis that demands immediate attention, not just attention like I have mentioned earlier, but empathy and action. And so we owe it to these young individuals to provide them with a brighter future, one that is filled with hope, opportunity, and dignity. Bar.Tim Mbeseha. Young graduates, statistics has proven that young graduates in Ambazonia are all into commercial bike riding just to make ends meet. And even while trying to do that, they are faced with lack of good word. They are also faced with colonial extortion. So even while you're trying to make ends meet, there are still some little evils you would have to deal with. First of all, do you agree that because of the lack of jobs, in Ambazonia due to the war and due to, the lack of interest of the colonial government, that graduates do not even have jobs to start with?
Let me just correct what he said. He said, you are not faced with little evils. No. The students in Cameroon, the young man, the young woman, the youth, faces a mountain of evils, a mountain of difficulties to survive. So they are not little things to ignore. The motorbike thing, as you rightly said, is just one of the ways. But why are they riding motorbikes? First, they don't have the roads. And so it is sad, because that thing can meander its way to anywhere. There's no road. And why is there no road? The responsibility for roads, the digging of roads, or repairing roads, is essentially on the government. Individuals don't go dig roads. But before you go to take a motorbike, for example, you have been a student. You ask yourself the question, what is the reason for even going to school? What's the need? Do you need to go to university to be a bike rider? Certainly not. So the education policy, as I said earlier, is a total failure. Nobody, no parent, me inclusive, and you send the school, you send your child to school with the hope that the child will come out tomorrow and be a better person than yourself. We're looking for progress. A better person than yourself does not mean owning a car, just a car, or sitting in an office. No. If you were a farmer, as they tell you all the time, let children go and farm. If your child must be a farmer upon graduation, he should be a better farmer with the expertise he has acquired from school. He should no longer be cutting his trees with the cutlass. He should at least have an engine saw. He should no longer be getting his mother or his wife to go and carry things on their head. There should be a road where he can use a tractor to haul those heavy things. These things are not there. But why are they not even there? If you remember the history of Southern Cameroon, Ambazonia, there was something called the West Cameroon Marketing Board. You have to grow those things, cocoyams, plantains, cocoa, coffee, when you can market it and make profit out of it. When they kill the Produce Marketing Board, what are we left with? Even the poor farmers, women and children alike, who go to farm cocoyams, who go to farm potatoes, what are they left with? You're left with carrying that thing on your head to go and say, Babanda, if you're somewhere in Kambe, or struggle to go and sell it in Douala. That's the limited market, the national market. The Produce Marketing Board was meant to ship. Early this year, and as we speak, we heard that there is no bread in Cameroon. Why? Because there is no wheat to make flour and sell and bake bread. Who told Cameroon that you could not make cocoyam bread? We have eaten potato bread right here. You could transform that thing into flour, bake it into bread, or transform it into other things and ship it to those who need it. But government, as they called it, they killed Produce Marketing Board. Marketing Board by itself had a large pool of employees, workers. They killed it, sold the property that they had, auctioned the thing or gave it free to their brothers in Douala and everywhere else. And so the result data for going to school is completely defeated. And so what are the children being trained to come out and do? You want your child to come and be in the house, be cooking in the kitchen with firewood like you? In West Cameroon education days, right in the primary school, what a department called cookery, home economics, where the child was taught at the time to cook on the stove. If you wanted to run a small restaurant around the town, you would no longer be cooking firewood to cook there. The teacher who could not go to Sunday school, who went to cook on the stove and sell around. That thing is all gone. Today we have in Ambazonia in general, everywhere in particular, dotted certain things they call government technical high schools. You don't see the technique they acquire from there. A child goes to a government technical high school, comes, if she's a girl, she doesn't know how to fry an egg. If it's a boy, he cannot cut a piece of wood into as a carpenter. Then what is the technical high school that they are learning there for? The jobs are created, technical high school, for example, or whatever secondary school they call it, for purpose of giving people jobs, employing their brothers and sisters and making them principals. In one school, you get so many officials, a principal, econom, discipline master, and all those sort of nonsense, who discipline children who come out and they are jobless. Should this ever have happened to Ambazonia? Certainly not. In Ambazonia, we knew what we needed. We trained the children in the areas that were going to help them grow their own lives. I cannot believe that today they have farms. People are still farmers. There are no roads to transport those things. Talk less of talking of a tractor. I remember a number of years back, they brought some tractors, purportedly creating a tractor industry in Bolova. The tractors they brought to show samples are there today rotting in the bush. What did it cost them? This was a gift. What did it cost them to distribute those tractors to people and teach them how to use tractors? And in that process, they will be able to make farms, buy their own tractors, make mechanized farms. Yes, you talk about motorbikes. How many children can ride motorbikes? You see them on the road, so many. But what percentage of the children who graduate from schools are able to afford money to buy even a motorbike, to ride on the bad road, and to overcome the mountain of problems you have mentioned? Bribery is just one of the main things that is created for. Today you find people graduating from universities around Cameroon and in Ambazonia in particular, and then they go down to apply for policeman job, gardien de la paix, which basic qualification is class 7. Are they going there because they like it? No. That's the only way they can get money. And they're not going there because of the salary of 37,000 francs. No. They're going there because they will stand on the road and extort money from bag riders, extort money from ordinary farmers going to sell cocoa and rogari in the market. Or they bribe their way with degrees in their back to go to the gendarmerie or go to the so-called B, which basic qualification is 26 pass, class 7. And so that's where we find ourselves. And as far as Ambazonia is concerned, I think Yaoundé must realize, if they have not yet realized, that this policy, while it may succeed over there, will not succeed with Ambazonia. Because as I've said, all these things I've mentioned, for example, teaching children in primary school, cookery, and so on and so forth, the hot farms, school farms, was in Ambazonia. Teaching children how to do anything by themselves, how to survive, was akin to us. At the time, in Ambazonia, at the time, we had originally one technical college. They call it Ombe Trade Center. And we produced engineers. We produced everything we needed. If they had not done what they did to us, today we will be having hundreds of those centers, well orientated to train the children in the skills that they need. And then, of course, upon their graduation, they will be equipped, given assistance to survive. If you want children to be motorbike riders, fine. Provide the means for them to acquire the motorbikes anyway. So if you want children to be farmers, provide them the means to own farms. We know how land is difficult in Cameroon, and we have forests over there. Give them the farm, give them the tools, and then open the market for them to sell. I will not go grow plantains or potatoes in Kambe, in Mamfe, just to carry on my head and go and sell in Douala. There's a reason why we do external trade. And so that is a failure of the system, which I think in some instances, as far as Ambazonia is concerned, is deliberate. It's actually deliberate, calculated to make us suffer. Because they cannot, for example, explain how they could abolish the marketing board. No sane person abolishes the market. How could we abolish the marketing board? They are no longer marketing. You're no longer selling things abroad. You're no longer exporting. Then your own economy is all based on local consumption, which no nations in the world does that. We find, for example, today as we speak, a certain President, Donald Trump, imposing tariffs on other countries because they're exporting things to them and paying money. So you cannot live on your own local economy alone, which was the reason that we had the West Cameroon Marketing Board. We're planting, you talked about Santa coffee. The CDC, we're not planting coffee to go and eat it in our kitchen. We're planting coffee to export the excess and perhaps consume the local ones. And so once we don't have this, The story is a long story. It's unfortunate. We should never have been where we are, but we have been forced to be there. But we have to leave it at all costs. Over to you.
Oh yes, and Bar.Tim Mbeseha, it's not just Ambazonians who are also going through all of these hardships, and so it's even marveling to ask, where will this help come from? Where will this succor come from? Because even the La Republic du Cameroon colonial forces and the people are also suffering. And so there is this report released by the Colonial Public Independent Conciliator, and how he has exposed the Colonial Northwest Regional Assembly's glaring inability to sign permanent contracts with his workers. So this shocking revelation is raising fundamental questions about the institution's commitment to its core mandate of fostering development. So the question is, how can an organization tasked with driving growth and progress fail to provide basic job security to its own employees? So the Colonial Northwest Regional Assembly was established to promote economic growth, social progress, and environmental sustainability in the Ambazonian nation, according to President Paul Biya. But however, the Colonial Conciliator's report reveals a disconnect between the institution's lofty goals and its treatment of its own workforce for over a year. So the failure to offer permanent contracts has left employees in a state of limbo, uncertain about their future and unable to plan for their families. The repercussions of this institutional failure are far-reaching. Without job security, employees are denied the stability and peace of mind essential for productive work. Morale suffers, motivation wanes, and the overall quality of work declines. Furthermore, the absence of permanent contracts undermines the institution's ability to attract the retained top talents, ultimately hindering its capacity to deliver on its so-called development mandate. So the Colonial Northwest Regional Assembly must take immediate action to address this crisis. This is because the colonial institution's leadership must recognize the inherent value of its workforce and prioritize their well-being. They shouldn't just be exploited because they are Ambazonians. Of course, they deserve the best. So the Colonial Northwest Regional Assembly's inability to sign permanent contracts with its workers is a reminder of the institution's failure to prioritize its workforce as an institution tasked with driving development. The Assembly must take immediate action to give Ambazonians their dues. So, Bar.Tim Mbeseha, just like we were just talking about Ambazonians and graduates, becoming motorcyclists, the ones who are probably even being employed in some of these colonial works and services are not given the opportunity to serve forever. It's just a basic contract thing, having them do even the menial jobs in organizations. Like they are some slave. This is very disheartening. What would you say about this?
You see, the story is a long story, and I don't know whether I have enough time to talk about it. You see, this thing you call Northwest Regional, whatever thing you call it, is part of the so-called special status. And as you said, the special status granted to so-called Northwest and Southwest was a non-starter. First, it's a fraudulent thing. The independent conciliator, whatever thing they call him or her, doesn't know what he's talking about. The report I think that's not what is put in the text for them. They are not meant to create jobs. Actually, not meant to create jobs. I had the opportunity to call one of them, the one or somewhere, and ask, what is the status of this thing? What's your function? What's your function, dependent conciliator, as they put it there? What's your main job description? So where they can go and settle dispute between farmers and so on and so forth. Is that job creation? No. They are not going, the special status, they're giving them that other regional nonsense doesn't change anything. Because the whole independent thing is based on special status. The special status is based on this decentralization from Yaoundé. It is under the text of decentralization. The text of decentralization allows whoever to do it, which have not been done, allows all those regions and so on and so forth councils to have 15% of the national budget. 15%. They didn't give the Northwest or Southwest, who have special status, an additional budget. So what they are doing in Bamenda or Boya is not different from what somebody should be doing in Bafoussam. The one in Bafoussam is just seeking to create jobs. They're seeking to ask for money from Yaoundé. They ask for 15%. Imagine 15% of $100. That's $15 out of 100, which is given to all the 300 councils or 10 regional assemblies. What would you do with that? If they want to dig a road, they still ask for money from the ministry in Yaoundé. So that their nonsense in Bamenda there was never intended to create jobs. There's no text that they should create jobs. Even if it is written there, they will create jobs, they're deceiving them, which is the reason therefore for which we have existed. That nonsense called special status was a non-starter. It should never have been there because they're deceiving them. They have now faced with the problem. What has so happened in Bamenda, which is probably called the Northwest or whatever thing you call it, what will they be reduced to? They have been reduced to quarreling who wears whatever Bamenda clothes in Yaoundé. Questioning chiefs, what are you wearing this Bamenda? Why are you awarding this title to somebody in Douala? Is that what it was meant to do? No. What is the power of the so-called regional assembly? Can they engage a budget? What is their own budget? The budget is what Yaoundé gives them. Out of the 15%, which they've given to all the decentralized bodies of the country, what are you going to do with 15%? Is that decentralization at all? No. And in that decentralization, they give 15%. In addition to that, everybody has 15%. And then you in Bamenda or Boya, you're giving additional functions of so-called regional assembly. Have they any function to do now? The only good thing for them is that they earn a salary. The only good thing for the independent conciliator is that he goes around. He can go to Nkambe and say, well, people are fighting over a farm here. Or cows have eaten somebody's potatoes. And then he gets a mission warrant and gets paid. If he gets paid. That's all what it is about. So it's not going to work. What I always said, I will insist, decentralization is not part of our program. Special status is not part of our program. Because say the people who are complaining, they missed what we are fighting for. They missed what Ambazonia has been fighting for. What is it fight about? It is not about special status. It is not about development per se. It is not about holding political office as a claim, where you are a prime minister or vice president. That is not what the whole struggle is about. The struggle is about viable institutions. What the West Cameroon government, Southern Cameroon government, with an office in Boya, with its own ministries, with their own budget, that they could raise money, they could employ you, they could create their own job description for you. So it's not about what is going on now. That's the wrong interpretation of the struggle. So we are struggling to free ourselves from the dungeons of the people. They create a special status under which they create something they call the regional assemblies and give them some pennies as they wish. And of course, which regional autonomy has nothing to do. Because if they wanted to employ somebody, they could employ somebody they wish. The governor who is their boss can dismiss that guy. The prefect who is their boss can dismiss that guy. And they do nothing. And so it is about the functional institutions. It has been established from your report that the so-called special status under which these regional assemblies fall doesn't qualify to be called an institution, doesn't qualify in any way, any form or shape as even a rightful approach to solving the problem that we are struggling for. We will have to struggle again. We're asking for a reinstatement of our state and the state institutions. Which state institution goes with functional institutions? The government of Southern Cameroon, I can say that we are creating a school in Kambe, a technical school. That technical school will include cookery. We will provide cooking material. We are creating a technical school in Victoria, which functions will include carpentry, will include sawmills to saw wood, will include all the technique that goes with it. Remember, there was a school where they called survey school. Survey school alone. They don't have it. What's a survey? A survey school deals with people where the roads will pass, how you put your houses, where the street lights will be put. So this is what we're looking for, not cosmetics of regional assemblies that have no meaning. Again, as I've said, the regional assemblies under which we are criticizing now was created 2019. We are now 2025. That's how many years ago? 6, 7 years ago. It has been proven that they are a failure. Independent reconciliation, or whatever nonsense they call them, are not worth the trouble. So let us, they can forget about that. Let us focus on what is right. Struggle, liberate yourself, create your own institutions, functional, look for money, employ your own job, your own youth, create your own institutions, educational institutions, including universities, and train the people the way you want. That's the bottom line. So that nonsense in Bamenda or Boya is not working. It is part of the special status created in 2019. It is not different from anything in Bafoussam, in Yaoundé or Ogadowa. So they are dreaming. In fact, they are just daydreaming. They are just daydreaming. Over to you.
Oh well. While that is going on, remember the Dschang bridge? That's also in the news. So this seems to be a remarkable display of community resilience. So locals in the west region of the Cameroons have defied government's restrictions and partially reopened the Dschang Cliff Road. So the road had been closed since November 5th, 2024, following a devastating double landslide that claimed at least 12 lives. So a viral video has captured the moment when locals armed with basic tools such as hoes, diggers and machetes cleared the road, allowing bikes and small vehicles to pass through. This makeshift solution has brought some relief to the community, which has suffered for 4 months due to the road's closure. The closure had severe economic implication, impacting trade and commerce in the Menunwa division and neighboring region of Cameroons. However, the locals' initiative demonstrates their determination to find immediate solutions to their challenges, since the government of La Republic to Cameroon is not doing that. But the Minister of Public Works recently announced a new road alignment project, urging the population to contribute to the national number 5 projects while the government's efforts are being seen. The locals' actions highlight their eagerness for quick solutions that we will think, because at the end of the day, they can't stay without a road. So we are thinking that this remarkable community effort raises questions about the government responses to the crisis and the need for more effective collaboration between authorities and local population in addressing infrastructure challenges. These are those in La Republic de Cameroon facing even the same challenges as those, if not even worse, than La Republic de Cameroon. So the question is, who will bail who? Where would this succor come up from? But that's not our all. We took a survey to, social media, and we tried to see comments and reactions of people. Some of them said it would be funny to know that Ukraine will be reconstructed before this Dschang cliff. Another said, for close to 5 months now, the government have not been able to reopen the roads, meaning it is a strategy to keep the people of that area poor. He went on to say explosive can be used to bring down that hill, and a good road constructed within a very short time, or better still, pass under the hills with roads, which is even less expensive. Why do we always see everything to be difficult in this country? Well, these are the people crying on how they can be better and how government ignores them. Bar.Tim Mbeseha, this has been since November, and this close, which serves as a major route for most of the locals in that area, has been shut down. But they have said no. They've stood up and they've tried to make something for themselves. What would you say about this?
Well, there are two things to deal with it. Let me start from what the natives, the inhabitants are doing. They're just trying to survive. But they are taking a very, very big risk. It's a very, very big risk. People don't know that place. People don't know the place. I know it. I've driven past through that place, La Falaise de Dschang. It's actually a very risky place. And so if there was a collapse on that hill, chances are that it will happen again. So when the natives go there with their spears or their hoes and cut a thing through it, that is not a solution. It's a very risky solution. It might pass 2-3 times, but the third time is that something will happen again. But the issue now is, why has government left that place unrepaired? It's a very major road linking the west. From there, you could go to Munda, you could go to Bafusam, that was shuttered to Bafusam, and you could transition to Bamenda. That's a very big highway. But why are they not doing it? They have just gone to sleep. Apparently, this is what I think. Apparently, because it links the west. The thing that the west, which is Bambili, is not in support of their so-called regime. That's my personal conclusion. Because there's nothing called urgent, anything called emergency anywhere in the world. That should have been an emergency. You said about 12 people died. No, they don't even know how many people died. The earth came down, to clean everybody who was there, including even the heavy machines that came to fix it. People were buried alive. And that is not an emergency to Cameroon. And if the version that you have given is true, the Minister of Transport comes there and says, well, we have to do this. Let the people contribute. Contribute what? What do you want the suffering people to contribute? Do what? That's the contribution, to go and dig with their hands. They're asking people to contribute money. The one that they steal is more than 10 times that will be required to put a tunnel there if you need a tunnel. The expertise to use to rebuild that road is available worldwide. They don't lack the expertise. To me, they don't lack the money. Because the money that goes into their pockets through theft is more than enough to fix that thing. But if there was an emergency anywhere in the world, that should have been an emergency. They've completely forgotten about it. And they say that there are deviations. For them, it's too far, it's too long. That's what they notice. But there's nothing like a long road if it is well made. Making the route around that place is not even going to add more than 20 miles. So what is 20 miles road that is so difficult for a government to dig? What do they lack? It's just an act of wickedness. It is forgotten. You see, this year 2024 was a year of misfortunes in the so-called Republic of Cameroon. If you, like Falis, the Dschang, was just one. If you saw what happened in Yagua, another one, it's just forgotten. All what they could do was to manufacture something they call presidential aid, gift, not even aid. They can then give you 2 blankets, give you a few cups of rice, and the thing is forgotten. Is it what we should go through? No. No. The minister should be ashamed of himself to even mention that the population should come out and help. What of the taxpayers' money? Is that not the population? What do they expect to do? To bring their hose and go and dig the road? Or they expect the very Bambili case to fake out some money from somewhere and contribute to dig a road in an emergency situation? No, no, it doesn't happen like that. We don't need to compare with Ukraine. There's nothing comparable with Ukraine. Ukraine is an organized, civilized society. If they need a loan, they'll go for a loan. If they need aid, they'll give them aid. But the most important thing is that it will be transparent. Whatever money goes into Ukraine in the form of aid or in the form of loans will be accounted for. But whatever thing goes to Cameroon, either in the form of aid, in the form of donation, in the form of gifts, in the form of official loans, is stolen. Goes into private pockets. That's a fact. They cannot dispute that. And so it is a scheme. The Dschang has at least two different dimensions to analyze. It's a political scheme to punish the Bambili case because it goes to the Bambili land where their greatest rival comes from. That is possible. It is a scheme. Now you see the minister there. What are they trying to do? It's a campaign. That's become a campaign toy. The minister has gone there. I also saw the minister being sent, some minister being sent to the north to go and try to inspect bridges that they want to be in 2025 when there are elections. Now, again, we should not make the mistake to think that they don't have this expertise. The expertise is there. Those he's are not his.
Exactly.
They're not using it to work with.
Let me come in here. It's not like they do not have the expertise. For example, one of the comments that drew our attention, which the technical crew are putting on the screen, the one that I think the person's name is Best Roses, he was giving ideas. He went on to say explosives can be used to bring down the hill, and a good road constructed within a short time, or better still, pass under the hills with roads which is even less expensive. And he went on to ask, why do we always see everything to be very difficult in his country? So basically, it's not like the civilians or the localities are wiser, or probably they have more ideas than the government. It could just be that they are not interested. Because when we analyze all of their ideas that these people were given as to why probably they supported their own people to go out and create road for themselves, it's obvious that this thing is not rocket science. It's not something that is far-fetched. It's not something that is difficult. It's just obvious that they do not care about the people, and the people can just do whatever they want to do. Go ahead, please.
I agree with you. That's what I was saying. You see, the ordinary citizen who lives there, who needs to go to the farm, who needs to go across, will do everything to survive. It is just that the government, whatever they call government, which is an institution to do those things, doesn't care about that thing. That's what I was trying to analyze. And I was trying to say that they don't care for different reasons. Well, their primary reason is political. What the commentator put there is perfectly right. You see, if we wanted to make a tunnel there, the tunnel is going to be shorter. It's not going to be up to 10 kilometers. It's not that they don't know. They know that. They know that if you don't have the expertise in Cameroon, you can get the expertise from somewhere else, pay them the expertise, and they will come and cut the tunnel there. Come and put a flyover there. They know all that. But as you rightly said, they don't care about those people there. They don't care about those people. I said what the British were doing was very risky. But they have no other option but to do that. Because they have to survive. They don't have to survive. It's not the best thing for them to do, but they have to survive. How do you expect them to live if they are just living across? When the government that is supposed to do something for them is doing nothing. And so I was trying to land by saying that, look, now for Dschang, in fact, from that plain road, you could go to Sancho. You pass through that way, you can go to part of Manengumba, which is in Ambazonia. Through that road, you could go to parts of Libya, which is Ambazonia. So it affects us. But what I'm saying is that in a true Ambazonia, such would not happen. Such would not happen. At least the government that we have in Boya would have the singular idea of caring for the people, realizing that the people need this. Whatever thing they would do to solve the problem would have been done. 5 months into the Dschang, nothing has been done. As I was trying to say, it's deliberate, to me, it's deliberate neglect for political reasons. Not because they lack the money, not because they lack the expertise, but for political reasons. But if you see the minister coming there at this last minute, elections to come in 5-6 months, it's a political campaign. You might find caterpillars there now, just to say the narrative that, well, the government is doing this, CPDM is doing this, Pobia is not digging the road, they are trying to fix it. It's all political. This is a wicked regime. We should not have been part of it. They don't care for the people. More than 12 people died in that place. They don't even put their names out there. Nobody knows it. And so it's a criminal junta in Yaoundé, supported by their appointed ministers. The minister coming in to see somebody is a Bambili guy, but the minister of transport. And he's being used as a toy to set the narrative from Yaoundé. To me, it's criminal neglect, which they should be sanctioned for. If they cannot go to prison, they should be thrown out of power and probably sent to jail. Over to you.
All right, thank you so much, Bar.Tim Mbeseha. This is where we'll let you go and hope to see you next time on Undaunted. Thank you so much for being part of tonight's Undaunted.
Thank you for having me.
And coming up next is news across Africa. World Food Programme to close office in Southern Africa after Trump's aid cuts. The UN's World Food Programs, is closing its Southern African office in the wake of the Trump's administration's aid cuts. In a statement, a spokesperson said the office in Johannesburg would close and the WFP would consolidate its Southern and East Africa operations into one regional office in Nairobi and Kenya. The spokesperson said the UN Food Agency had launched a long-term plan to streamline its structure in 2023, but as the donor founding outlook, it becomes more constrained. We have been compelled to accelerate these efforts, he says. Now, the spokesperson said food programs would continue and the commitment to serving vulnerable communities is as strong as ever. And he also said that the WFP remains committed to ensuring operations are as effective and efficient as possible in meeting the needs of those facing hunger. The WFP did not say how much funding it had lost from USAID, but received $4.4 billion in assistance from the U.S. last year, about half its total annual budget and more than 4 times the amount given their second biggest donor, Germany. Now, just in, Trump's administration said just last week it was remitting 90% of USAID's foreign aid contracts because they did not advance America's national interest, stopping $60 billion in spending on humanitarian projects across the world. Southern Africa was hit by its worst drought in decades last year, destroying crops and putting 27 million people in danger of hunger. Well, according to WFP, it's made a call for $147 million in donation to help some of those in need even before Donald Trump started cutting U.S. foreign aid. The WFP provides food assistance to more than 150 million people in 120 countries. Well, it won the Nobel Peace Prize in 2020, and its 6 leaders since 1992 have been Americans, including current Executive Director Cindy McCain, the widow of the former U.S. Senator John McCain. Moving on now, few UN agencies have been specific about the impact of U.S. aid cuts. The UN's International Organization for Migration reportedly has cut 3,000 jobs linked to resettlement in the U.S., and Family Planning Agency UNFPA has estimated that a number of its operations will be affected. Many UN aid agencies have said they are still assessing the impact and remains unclear about whether some programs or projects will benefit from waivers that could allow US donations to continue to flow. Coming up next, news across the globe. Well, France and the European Union are making videos to secure access to Ukraine's vast mineral resources, including critical minerals like rare earth elements, titanium, and manganese. This comes as the U.S. is pushing for its own mineral deals with Ukraine, reportedly as a form of repayment for the billions of dollars in military aid provided to the country. Ukraine is rich in strategic minerals, with 23 of the 50 critical minerals identified by the US and 26 of the 34 recognized by the EU as critically important. The country's valuable mineral resources have become a focal point in the conflict with Russia, with multiple countries vying for access and influence. The EU and France are likely seeking to reduce their dependence on other global suppliers, particularly China, which dominates the rare earth elements market. By securing access to Ukraine's mineral resources, they hope to promote energy transition, support their industrial base, and enhance their economic security. The situation is quite complex, with geopolitical tensions and economic interests at play. Because the US, EU, and other global powers navigate these interests, Ukraine's mineral resources have become a critical factor in the country's future and the broader global economy. But is China left out of these? No, China is preparing to fight back against the U.S. tariff threats with countermeasures that could include tariffs and non-tariffs actions to get in U.S. cultural and agricultural food products. This comes after U.S. President Donald Trump announced plans to impose an additional 10% duty on Chinese products, citing China's alleged failure to halt the flow of fentanyl into America. China's Commerce Ministry has called Trump's move blackmail, and analysts say Beijing still hopes to negotiate a truce with the U.S. administration. However, with no signs of trade talks, the prospect of a rapprochement between the two economic giants is fading. Now, here are some of the key areas that could be affected by China's countermeasures, and this is by our own analysis. We are thinking about the U.S. agricultural products. Of course, we know China is the biggest market for U.S. agricultural products, despite a decline in imports since 2018. Food security. Beijing has been pushing to diversify sourcing and raise domestic output in its quest for, greater food security. Talk about trade tension. But as the situation unfolds, it's clear that the global trade landscape is becoming highly and increasingly complex with far-reaching implications for economies around the world. Will things get better? Of course, we hope they will. Will it get complicated? Well, as the news continues, we'll definitely find out. But this is where we draw the line and curtain on tonight's Undaunted. Before we go, let's take a recap of the major stories. Well, tonight on Undaunted, we gave you the report of the student who has lost his life in Bambili Hostel. Also, we took a walk at the Colonial Northwest Regional Assembly as it fails to develop its workforce. We gave an analysis of the commercial motorcycle sector as it's fast absorbing Ambazonians graduates. Meanwhile, the locals in the Dschang cliff has raised the road by their own. On the African scene, World Food Program is to close office in Southern Africa after Trump cuts aid. While on the foreign scene, France and the European Union are making a move to secure access to Ukraine's vast mineral resources. That's it for tonight on Undaunted. We'll leave you with ABC Images. Good night and God bless.